Hello and welcome to the Cardboard Guide. And today we're having our special sort of content creator spotlight. And Sophie.
Yeah, so hi, Jens and Sophie here, and we have some special guests for you guys who are also creating content for the epic game of sorcery. But I will let you guys introduce yourselves. Zac, why don't we start with you? Who are you and what are you creating at the moment?
Yeah, I'm Zac Clark from the Common Sense Sorcery podcast. We make sorcery content, so a little bit of everything, a little like a potluck. We do a lot of commentary on the design of the game. That's something that we took over from when we do Magic content as well. So we took that feature over. We do a little bit of introductory and gameplay content as well, but a lot of what we do is actually community highlighting. And then like how to create a sorcery community because the game is so brand new that maybe your LGS doesn't have it yet or they don't support it yet. So we have a lot of content that's about that. And then we're competitive guys. We like to talk about the competitive aspects of the game as well.
Yeah, I think that's where my bread and butter for like what I contribute to Common Sense Sorcery is. I am very deep into the theory of games. That's where like my Magic background was. And then when Zac told me, "Hey, Phil, you got to try sorcery," that was really where I started sinking my teeth into like all the different aspects of like working with positional play, which I had never really done before, and all of the aspects that blew up in my mind of how cool that was. But yeah, I'm Force of Phil. I'm Zac's co-host on the Common Sense Sorcery podcast. I bring game theory type discussion to the pod as really my forte. And then I also handle EternalDurdles.com, which is written content for both Magic and Sorcery, which we had for Magic, but we just added Sorcery because Sorcery is incredible. And so we started adding written content for that as a place where people can, who don't have a platform, they can write their ideas in an article, and then we can publish that. I'll clean it up I'm an editor by profession. And so I clean up people's articles. I publish that way. Everybody has a means to get their ideas out there because I think that the community is so deep and so rich and so like thoughtful with how they think about the game and how they think about the community that we want to be able to give everyone a platform to actually be able to share that.
Nice. That's a lot of stuff that you have going on, but like you just briefly touched on, Zac, that you actually do Magic content as well, and then sorcery came on later. Why sorcery? Because I mean, you're doing Magic, it's a bigger scene, there are a lot more viewers. Why sorcery? What does it offer?
Well, sorcery has this sort of old school Magic feel. Like I started playing Magic in 1995, and the game just felt like very mysterious. The art was so cool, and there's sort of I won't call it an exodus of players, but there's sort of a lot of players that have just become sort of disillusioned with Magic. We play the one of the oldest versions of the game, Legacy, for Magic, so we're kind of insulated from a lot of that. But some of that stuff creeps in from time to time, the other IPs and stuff like that. And so Sorcery was a game I looked at with several other games. I grew up working in a comic shop in the 90s. I've seen so many games come and go. I played the Star Wars collectible card game. I played Overpower, Legend of the Five Rings. I've seen so many collectible card games come and go. And I feel like I have a knack for pointing out the ones and picking out the ones that are short term and the ones that are going to stick around. And there's a lot of factors that go into the ones that I look at and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. But if you look at like a great example of one that I think, and I hate to say this, I think is going to be short term is Overpower. Overpower was a DC versus Marvel card game back in the 90s. Really fun game, very schoolyard. Like if Wolverine fought Cyclops, like who would win kind of situation. I'm going to make my team of 4 guys. And that was a very cool IP to grip onto at the time. Obviously, the game stopped in like the early 2000s and it got rebought and they redid a Kickstarter. And obviously the Marvel IP, the DC IP, very expensive to acquire. So they went with a public domain IP that was like, Merlin versus the Wicked Witch versus Cthulhu versus Sherlock Holmes. I love that literary like angle, right? And especially in the public domain where there's so many options there. And you can see some parallels about what I'm talking about here to what I'm talking about in Sorcery, where there are some things that are like public domain that fit into fantasy. Arthurian Legends is a perfect example, right? You've got Merlin, you've got Morgana, but so Now, why would I say that Overpower is like a game that seems like kind of a flash in the pan now? Well, they just announced that their next set is going to be Skybound, which is Invincible and Walking Dead. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really fit into the themes like that. I gripped onto this game because I was like, oh, John Carter from Mars, Carson of Venus, like all these like old. The first set was called the Edgar Rice Burroughs World Set. So like you get all this like old like Cthulhu and that style of like pulp fantasy. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then as soon as I saw that they changed tack, I was like, okay, they're in it for the cash. It might stick around for a while, but like I feel like a game has to have its own world to really stick around, right? And even if that own world is based off of other IPs, they're IPs that they own, right? Like a public domain IP, like Arthurian Legends is a classic example. They own those characters. Like the game can do whatever they want. They don't have to be like, oh, we're not allowed to make Merlin cast earth spells because the guys that own them said they can't do that. So there's these little stipulations, things like that happen that they're like, you have to deal with another company. I find that to be the first step in a game kind of like losing its possibility of growth.
Yeah, I want to echo your sentiment there, Zach. I think because Sorcery is my first game ever after Magic. As a kid, I collected Pokemon cards but didn't play the game. Then I played Yu-Gi-Oh in like my adolescence youth until I like understood how games worked. And then once I stood like resource management and anything like that, I recognized that, I was like, Yu-Gi-Oh is not it. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is not a very like well-functioning game. It's fun as like a fast-paced thing, but it's like once you understand design, you're like, this is like actually broken. This isn't it. And then I had friends at a card shop that introduced me to Magic, and then I never looked back. Right. So I've only played Magic for a decade and a half. No other games have consumed my time at all. And Sorcery was the first one where I was among that disillusioned camp that Zach is talking about. And I've been able to rationalize a little bit more now, and I'll speak to that in a minute. But Sorcery is the first game that I've ever ventured out of Magic for on Zach's recommendation, and it has hooked me ever since. And part of it is, I think I didn't get to experience Magic in the early 90s when it first came out in the same way that Zach did. But getting to experience Sorcery, even though it's been out for 3 years, getting to experience it as though it's still this new game because there's only been so many expansions. And so it's like very easy to catch up on all of the, like the glossary of cards and like be able to grok all that. It has been like such a refreshing breath of fresh air of being able to come into a game. And this is where I think Sorcery really has stood out for me, particularly since we went to our first live event. We went to our first Crossroads in Baltimore. Unlike the other games that have been using outside IPs to help sales of their game, I think that what that has felt to me, which is different with Eric's Curiosa, is they are putting their finances and bottom line and shareholders before the player base, before the people that they're serving the product for. And what I found that was really highlighted when we went to our first Crossroads, talking to the team at Eric's Curiosa that was there, and then the event and the way it was run, the culture is different because they don't have to appeal to whatever part of their shareholders they need to. And so that culture being built from the top down, like you can tell that's the culture at Eric's Curiosa. And then that feeds into the game that they're making, which then feeds into the player base that's supporting that game, that then the community at large has as a whole. So like I find that it's almost like it's a respect for themselves and for the game. Like they respect the game enough that they haven't reached into outside IP to just draw whatever biggest crowd they can get. They're like, we will draw the players that are intellectually stimulated and curious and will discover something here. And that is really potent and really resonates with me. With every time we've played the game, whenever we're talking to players about the game, with Gothic's release recently, and like the way that they handle the art and flavor and story of each game piece that they produce, I just really recognize as a player, this company that's producing this game really respects themselves and the game that they're making. And that makes me want to endeavor in it with them because I know I'm in good hands. And that has been something that Wizards of the Coast, who produces Magic, has felt sort of lost for Eternal players, where we really cared about this thing and they've sort of sold it to other IPs to the highest bidder to just come in, but they're also willing to do it with everybody. It's not like
Yeah.
we're looking for only the IPs that we think will work.
Yeah, the lack of curation is actually the biggest
It is
issue. It feels
mind-boggling.
Yeah, so like that lack of curation makes it feel like, oh, so you don't care about like any of your like you developed like what I think is the greatest game ever made, and then you've sort of just fished it out to the highest bidder, and now it's like whatever. Now it's just a game engine. It's not a game anymore. It's just a skin.
It's
for other
Fortnite,
games.
basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can
I
just
think
wear any skin.
I think that's sort of one of the things is like it's not just by like selling into an IP that is the problem, because I think if Eric's Curiosa did that, and let's say like they were like, hey, Michael Moorcock, we want to give you a bunch of money and use your mythos. We want to do the Elric of Melniboné like universe and go with that. No one would bat an eye. I think everyone would be like, that's on flavor. That seems like there's some Elric like type stuff in Gothic even, right? And you'd be like, yeah, that's on flavor. But if they were like, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna do Battlestar Galactica, the set, you'd be like, it'd be like Whiplash, like you can't. So seeing that in a game that you love makes you very aware of the mistakes that other games can make when they're endeavoring through their game. And I'm not seeing that from Eric Curiosa. I'm not seeing those mistakes. I'm seeing very thoughtful curation.
There's a trajectory that I feel like Zac, other players that we talk to that haven't like made the leap out of Magic to another game yet, which is it feels as though like the way that Sorcery is going is this like it's this positive endeavor where you're like, oh, I'm so excited to see where they go next. I'm so excited to like for this game to continually evolve and see what other new toys we can come up with, and what are the ways that they're going to play in the realm next. That they're like, we know that they're putting in the effort and respect to their game, that it's going to come across in a way that we're going to go. Like we're the same way that like we appreciate the art. You look at an art, and then when you feel like you get it, you just are like like chef's kiss. Like you have that experience with all these different game pieces. Where once they started moving into the like brought into outside IPs for Magic, it feels like. Are they gonna? How far are they gonna ruin it with this one? How far?
Yeah,
like
how bad is it gonna
like,
be the next time?
You have the good thing, and you're like, oh, please just don't mess with the good thing. Like, please just like we want the good thing. Just like hopefully this does whatever they release next just doesn't impact what we're doing. Like hopefully we're okay. And that it's like this concern for the game as opposed to this like happy endeavor for the game where like. I can't, like Gothic just came out. I can't wait for the next set of Sorcery to come out. I can't wait to see the new game pieces that we're going to get to enjoy. So like there's that push and pull that I've noticed between the two games when I play them both. And the other side of it is alongside that, the game still has what feels like a relative balance that I can understand. So when they're balancing cards and I'm playing them, I go, oh yeah, it makes sense that this costs this much because of how powerful it is. And if it costs more than I think something should, when I'm reading an effect, I go, okay, this is probably more powerful than I think it is because they've costed it this way. And I trust that they know what they're doing and are using their balancing systems effectively and accordingly. In Magic now, a lot of the design is vibes, right? Like there's no like power and toughness doesn't cost anything. Like really like it doesn't translate to its mana cost. Its ability doesn't necessarily translate to its mana cost in a way that's like that you could articulate. You're like some 1 mana spells. You're like, this should be 4 mana for sure. Yeah. And there are things that are like sometimes overcost, and you're like, I don't know why they costed it this. They push so many other things. It doesn't have any relation anymore. And so like figuring out that balance if you don't have a natural intuition of playing for 30 years. But I think that that's also that idea of like what that game does, like what Sorcery does for me as a player now is I appreciate exploring the game because of how they're developing it. And I actually just published an article on Eternal Durdles about this, that the way that players in the community endeavor to get other players into the community is they share their joy for the game. They don't have to side. They don't have to like when talking about Magic now, like if you want to get somebody in Magic, first it's a very deep card pool, so you have to start deep. But we typically lean into telling people about a fixed format called pre-modern, where no new cards enter, and you're going to have like the old Magic experience that we initially fell in love with. And so like, but like we gravitate towards that because we want to stay positive about the game. But like Here's I'm going to simplify my answer because I can tell. I'm
like Phil. Did you answer this question yet?
So there was an expression in Magic that Zac uses a lot on our channel, which is whenever a new product comes out, if we're like examining the product and we don't resonate with it or something like that, one of the design team at Magic has said, well, we have to cater to a lot of players. There's 30 million Magic players, and we have to cater to. We try and give all of the players something that they'll love, and we don't want anybody to feel indifferent about something. We either want them to love it or hate it, or like on the polarized ends. And one of the aspects they'll say is sometimes a product isn't for you.
Yeah.
Zac uses that
Exactly.
like all the time.
This
we're talking
product
about
is not for
Blake
you.
Rasmussen.
Yeah.
and that never really hit. Like I get it. I was like, yeah, I also play like a very niche archetype in a very niche format. And I'm like, it's very rare that anything will actually be targeted for what I want to do within the game. And that's okay. Like I'll figure it out. But then the more and more that they've leaned into Universes Beyond, the more and more I go, oh, this product isn't for you. And like the gaslighting that we need to like somehow like, wait, this product isn't for me. I don't feel like anything is for me. So wait, I'm the problem. And it's like, well, you're too small of a thing for us to care about. We have to care about this other thing. And then it's like, okay, so why I don't feel like I'm supposed to care about you if you don't care about me. And then there's like this weird like cultural divide where it's like, wait a minute. So like we want the game to be the regional thing that you got us into, and now you're doing this thing because you want to appeal to the broad base, and you're saying that the broad base is important because if we don't get the broad base, the game doesn't continue. And I say, okay, so that means that I need to want the thing that I don't want in order for the game to succeed, because I want the game to do well, because I want to keep playing the game. And then all of a sudden, like, we're getting our wires mixed up, and I'm like, wait a minute, so I'm the problem? Like, and that you know what I mean, Zac? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course. Yeah. So did that answer your guys' question?
Yeah, did that answer?
Yeah, I think, but I also think
A lot of interesting points.
Yeah, and it resonates a lot. I mean, we started off as a Magic channel as well. We have both been playing since '94.
Yeah.
And I think like at one point I was like, okay, we needed to do a new Magic video. We wanted to cover what's coming up in the next year. And then I saw the lineup and I just turned around to Jens and was like, I'm not doing it. I am not doing any more Magic videos. I can't find like a speck of excitement for any more Universes Beyond.
Yeah.
And the few things that I am interested in, they don't even look like what I want them to look like. Lorwyn, for instance, it's this very AI, very purple, very bright colors, and nothing like the old Lorwyn world. And in the end, we were just like, okay, we'll lose a lot of viewers and subscribers, but we want to be authentic, and we're just not covering Magic anymore. We can't do it.
You guys
that,
did
the
something.
art in Magic is so generic now.
Yeah.
It's like, even though the cards are different, the art is almost always just the same. It's very identical. There's this fixed color palette. There's this fixed way to do stuff. It's
art direction
is
like so
like
is both so structured, and at the same time like everything, because of that, everything feels like I can't see a card on the board and it just looks like every other card to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun game for anybody who does play Magic, who watches. Try and think of every card you can where it's blue energy and red energy clashing into each other. There's a lot of that. That's I know that because I play Counterbalance. That's one of my favorite cards to play with. That was one of the few original red energy into blue energy cards, and now there's just so much red energy into blue energy clashing with each other.
It's interesting. You guys did something that we thought about. But we still have a passion for the parts of Magic that we play, and we luckily we've cultivated a community on our Magic channel that we really love. But it was something that we talked about when we were looking at Sorcery is do we just keep doing this on this channel, or do we like create a brand new channel and a brand new podcast? And it's cool to see like you guys did something opposite. You were just like, we're pivoting, full on pivoting to something new, and that makes sense because if you don't find the joy in the game anymore, you kind of have to. It's for us, it was like, all right, if I'm gonna do this, like basically like I'm putting double the effort in now. Like I have three days a week I'm doing Magic, 2 days a week I'm doing Sorcery. At one point we were doing 5 days a week and 2 days a week, and I was like, we need to slow down. Like I cannot edit that much. We could obviously, you could kind of tell, we can talk about we can talk till we turn gray, but the back end and that sort of thing, it becomes a lot, especially setting up a brand new channel and getting that going. And we really wanted to do that right, getting the iconography together, but it's interesting once you do that, how much easier the YouTube climb is when you actually already know what you're doing. That was like crazy to me. I was like, oh, like our Magic channel, like on a good month, like a normal month is like 100 new subscribers, about, and then it depends on what our episodes are, but around 1,000 to like 1,500 views. For Sorcery, it started out very low, and now we're at like averaging like 300 new subscribers a month, which is crazy.
That's a lot.
absolutely.
Yeah. And that's after after 3 years of doing YouTube, our Magic channel got to like the 1,000-ish mark of people, like of like average views. That's our average views after 3 months of doing Sorcery content. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if if it feels like, because I just got into Sorcery, Zach, the past handful of months, 6 months?
Baltimore.
Yeah. So Zach got me in. He'd been trying to get me into Sorcery for a while, and he'd been like, every time we would get together, he'd pull out the realm and he would be like, let's play a game. And so he'd like walk me through a match, and I would like, essentially it was like learning my second language, right? I'm piecing Magic lingo through to like communicate like what's going on. He's doing the same for me. That way I can get a better sense of it. But then once it like we understood it and it became a thing, I think like we also wanted to like that juxtaposition that I was just talking about for like how Magic feels versus how Sorcery feels. It's a different energy, and therefore like that energy translating onto the channels, I like it sort of felt like they were a little bit like there was a little bit of friction, and so we just wanted to start a new one because like we understood that the community, even though it has a large amount of crossover, there's still like a lot of players that don't play each other. Like I know plenty of people whose first game is Sorcery. And haven't, even though like they're playing with a lot of like other old timey card players that have been playing various card games their entire lives. This one is their first one, even though they are like my age, like they just never really were in the trading card game space before, but were attracted by Sorcery. And I think that's really cool. And it also feels like right now, because like the game's been out for 3 years. I know Zach has played it for a very long time. But like it feels like right now there's like this really large boon that there's a large wave of like new players, and I'm certainly on that wave. But like the Reddit went from like, I remember it was sub 3,000 people on the Reddit page, on the subreddit, like a month and a half ago, and now it's like already in sub plus 10,000 or whatever. Like it's like just like a massive haul into the game, and I'm definitely among the players that are doing it. Like, how have you guys experienced? Because like you've been doing Sorcery content for a while. Have you noticed like in the past handful of months that there's been like this really large influx of players?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been doing Sorcery content since the Kickstarter. We were Kickstarter backers, so we've been playing since the very beginning. And I think we've also done content long enough now that we can sort of like see the waves, and we're definitely on a major wave right now. There was a good period between Ethereum Legends and Gothic here where it was pretty quiet. There was not a lot of views, not a lot of videos doing well. But I would say like ever since like August, September, our views have been insane. And right now we're like at the highest level that we've ever been. And it's just like also just in terms of like local gameplay, we have a game store. We have like a lot of people show up for some learn to plays. We're getting like regular group together that will actually play, even though everybody's are like adults and have kids, and we don't meet up as often as the teenagers in the game store. But we do actually have a pretty decent sized local group going. So I think the hype for Gothic has really brought in a lot of players. I think the Star City Games conventions has brought in a lot of new eyes who were just there and spotted the game. So I think the visibility of the partnership with Star City Games is, I don't think that could be overestimated. I think it's been really important to get more eyes on the game that weren't necessarily already in Magic or knew about Sorcery. So a lot of new players coming in.
And you can also feel the difference in the demographic between the Magic players and the Sorcery players, because a lot of new Magic players are all about playing Magic, game pieces, whereas in Sorcery you have both, as you feel, dedicated players that really love the tactical aspects of the game, and of course playing the game. And you also have a lot of people that appreciate the art and the collectability of Sorcery.
Yeah,
and there's this very good blend between the two groups that come to tournaments, have a lot of fun playing, but also enjoy the art and enjoy collecting, enjoy the one set per year sort of thing with Sorcery. And as you also touch upon, that in Magic you have it's a big company, you have shareholders, you have revenue that needs to tickle in. But with Sorcery, it's sort of a passion project. It's a small team, and they have a lot of money. They don't need to generate a lot of income, and that really shows because they can do what they actually just want to do. It's this passion project.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but it was just before I forget it, Zac, you touched upon that. Some games they die out quickly, and others they do well. And you touched upon that they need to have some sort of lore, they need to have some sort of world building. But Sorcery doesn't have this sort of world building. So how come do you think Sorcery is actually doing so well when they don't have this built-in lore?
Great question. So there's this thing that I think super understated about early Magic the Gathering is that there was this ability to kind of self-insert yourself into the game. Like, a planeswalker used to just be something that meant a player, right? And so I got in Fallen Empires, and it was not 90% of the card text in Fallen Empires is just lore, right? You're just like looking, and you're like, okay, there's some flavor text there. And you could sort of piece it together, but there weren't even novels out. You just you used your imagination to kind of project yourself into the story, and what was going on the board for you was like part of the story. A lot of that is present in the design of Sorcery, where you look at the cards and you're like, yeah, I guess these cards kind of interact with each other. Like, sure, this unicorn and this guy could conceivably be in the same place at the same time, but you get to make up those stories yourself, and you're not hindered by the game's lore either. So you don't have to worry about this is a crazy thing to say. The Star Wars collectible card game in the 1990s. I don't know if you guys played or remember that game.
I remember the game, but I didn't play it.
So the game stopped a little after Episode 1 came out because there was going to be no more Star Wars for about 2 years. Guys, they ran out of Star Wars stories to tell because they didn't have any more movies. I know it's crazy to think now they didn't have any more movies. Now they could have gone into expanded universe and stuff like that, but they decided not to. They just stopped the game altogether to go into basically reboot their game. But I feel like when you don't have a set lore, you can just keep making up stuff and using your imagination, and that's compelling because it's unbound. You get to just come up with like, oh, okay, like here's this. One of my favorite cards in the new Gothic set is the I forget the name of it now. It's the card that has she's a freak. That's funny. No, it's the card that has protection from ordinary.
Yes,
I can't remember the name of it. Elders or something. But that card's so cool, and it gives you an idea that like this is some kind of noble, that's like absolutely not, pauper characters, that sort of thing. And it's just that's a cool piece of flavor that translates perfectly into game context that makes you use your imagination a little bit. And to me, like that's one of the things, like not necessarily having a set lore to me is much more powerful than being like, oh yeah, we're just going to use everything from the Invincible comic, and you're like I don't want to crap on Overpower. I think that the game is very well designed and well done. I'm disillusioned by the fact that like they so quickly like just went over to like an IP situation. Like I was like, oh okay. I mean, it is a comic book. That was the original intent of the game, but I think to answer your question, I think that not having a set lore, but being in a world, right? Like where the realm is a thing, right? Like you can the avatars, like you can see yourself, especially because the avatar is like the concept of an avatar is such a self-insert to begin with, right? Like I'm not female, but I do like playing Enchantress, and when I'm playing Enchantress, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing like Enchantress stuff, like in my head, I'm the Enchantress then, like that's.
I want to like speak to that and how they are able to produce that experience in game mechanics, which I think is why the realm and the grid is such a really, really clever way to insert that stuff. Is when Zac and I were first playing, he was playing Enchantress against me, and he put down the Black Plague and Great Famine and things like that. And he's like explaining, how the grid system works with auras and everything. And I remember being like, the way that you just imagine the realm and all of the things that are happening to it. So he put down the Great Famine. I'm like, oh, it makes sense. If I go over here, if I just travel to the west side of the realm, there's a Great Famine on the east side of the realm. I can't go there. I don't want to go there until the famine, is sorted. And so like just telling the story of I have to stay on the east because the West is plagued by this famine is already a storytelling like mechanic that's inherent to the structure of the game, which is just really, really clever.
Until I turn the famine into a creature.
Yeah, until it can move the famine east. But like that idea with every card, and that's why I think like I appreciate Eric Skiriosa's team like taking such care with every game piece, is that like the flavor of every game piece and the fact that they do everything top down instead of bottom up means that they're starting with a story, even if it's an individual story, that then that when you play it, you put it into the realm with whatever other aspects of story is being told, even if it's just in your imagination, like, and your opponent is interpreting it differently from their POV. Like, that's all well and good. Like, that also fleshes out the story. They thought this was the thing that was more important, so they took these actions, and like, how engaging is that? Like, you know, oh, they decided to do this. That was pretty like evil. They didn't need to do that. You know, you then can make that story on your own in your head. But I think that like the difference in game design and the pieces that they're making that I really appreciate is they'll design something and they're like, yeah, that's what this thing does. That's what this thing would do in this world. And that's it. They don't do any, they don't tack on any additional stuff to make it easier for you to get. It's like this thing, you throw it, it pierces the entirety of the realm, and then it kills everything along the way and ends up where it ends up. That's what this ancient artifact does. You figure it out. And I think that that's what's really cool. They don't dilute their design or their flavor to make it so it's like, oh, well, we want the lowest common denominator to be able to understand this at first glance. It's like, no, engage with this for a second and figure it out and understand it, or learn more into it. And I really appreciate that. The notion that they can hand you a game piece, be like, this is what this does. This is a flavorful like piece of work that we have done, and we're proud of it. You figure it out. And then we look at what it does and go, okay, what can I do with this? It just sparks the imagination. Like when I first saw that, I can never pronounce it, but the spear that I was just talking about, the Ryle. What's up?
Oh, that thing. Yeah, no, I don't.
There's also the other the unique spear where you throw it to any location, kill a thing, and that's where it is.
Destiny.
No,
Spear of Destiny.
Right.
So in Spear, when I first read Spear of Destiny, I didn't know it existed until after our first major event that we played in. And so I saw Spear of Destiny and I was like, oh, what can I do with this? And at the time, my mind was also like in the world of like, oh, I'm now fully understanding what body of water means. And like now I'm just exploring like what the realm underneath the realm looks like, the subsurface. I'm like exploring this fantasy world. And then I was like, oh, what can I do with both the subsurface and the Spear of Destiny? And so then I just started building decks where I'm like, this is a Sir Peleus who just finds the spear. And so the whole point of the deck is to flood the entire realm so that Peleus can just go throw the spear and then pick it back up anywhere he is. Like, and like, oh, so it's the story of like building up this like mythical character with this like one of magic item that can just ruin anything in the realm. Like, and I just made up that story. That spear and Peleus have nothing to do with each other. They didn't exist together in whatever lore they came from. Maybe they did. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
They could.
That story is there, and they didn't have to do any. They didn't have to connect any of those dots. The players got to do it ourselves.
I'm often telling Phil a lore that he doesn't know exists. So I don't know. Phil, do you know what the Lance of Longinus is?
No. Does anybody, Zach?
Yeah. So the Lance of Longinus is the Spear of Destiny. That is the spear that pierced Christ on the cross. So it would have existed. It would have existed at the same time as Sir Peleus, probably just not in the same story.
Yeah, I think also that
I'm a lore nut for this stuff. I love it.
But like, how cool is that, right? Like, I didn't know that spear was referencing a religious item, and now I do. You know, but there wasn't necessarily any like. I knew it was a magical item. I knew.
Thank you to Wolfenstein 2: Spear of Destiny for that piece of lore.
I think that, you know, honestly, that actually speaks to something that from the Magic crossover that we were just talking about, where they are appealing to like the broadest player base that they can. The word legendary in Magic has sort of just lost its meaning. Yeah. You know, now it's just a functional piece to be your commander, not a look at this unique character within the broader story of Magic's lore. So like when you see a unique and then the story behind that unique, like the difference between a unique, elite, exceptional, and ordinary, they're telling you how like specifically like how like important or how novel this thing is. Whereas like in Magic, there's 400 legendaries are set. You're like, okay, so if everyone's special, no one is. And like, so it's sort of like lost its mystique, where it's like now anytime you see a unique, or if you draw it, you're like, oh, this is like you draw your one of, you're like, this is a powerful thing, you know, like it's like blown my mind in gameplay as we've been exploring. We're going to do a duplicator episode soon on just like duplicator gameplay theory and like how to build your deck and like what you can do. And like the idea of bringing two uniques together has just been breaking my brain because like they didn't design them for there to be two. It's like a unique does a special thing. And so if you have two and it's like both things happening at the same time, and then it's like breaking my mechanics brain because I'm like, I know they didn't intend for this.
Interesting. I think like there's a lot of interesting points to jump on, but I think one thing that we always ask sort of during the end, but I wanted to sort of draw into the middle of this conversation and change it up just a little. Usually we ask our guests to sort of say, okay, if you could decide a set, what would the theme and the flavor be of that? But I'm going to change it up and go with, what do you realistically think that the next set will actually be in 2026? So, Zac, what do you think the next set of Sorcery Contested Realm will contain?
I just posted about this, so I love that you guys. So this is my guess, and like I said, it's just a guess. But I think that they're going to do something along the lines of like dark fantasy, like Conan, like like a desert style setting, right? With like Conan style like thing, like Dark Sun for D&D players, right? Where you have this like dying world where there's like a Hyborian age, and you just get it just kind of still leans into the Gothic vibe and into the Arthurian Legends vibe, but like puts you in sort of a prehistoric setting that is like not prehistoric as in like cavemen, but like pre-written history kind of thing. That's sort of the idea. Like I think Conan takes place in between the dawn of man, like the advent of writing, and the fall of Atlantis. So something in that area, or even an Atlantis setting, would be kind of cool too. But those are my guesses.
What about you, Phil?
I really like public domain stuff. I really would love to see some, like, because they have some nods to Shakespeare, I would love to see like all of Shakespeare's like the high fantasy stuff translated into the realm.
I thought Phil was going to say Steamboat Willie for a second.
A Midsummer Night's Dream is already there. Like I sort of like really like seeing interpretations of that when they're well handled. So like anything in like the Renaissance era style, I would really enjoy, because I think that art style would really work within how they produce their game pieces. But then I also like within that too, it's like I too would like to see like their take on Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. Like I think that would be really cool. We've seen like Jack the Ripper and like how they've incorporated those types of characters into the game and like how flavorful those are. And I would love to see what they could do with like characters we think we know,
Yeah.
But then showing those characters respect in the way that we want them to, and then actually like incorporating that into the realm. I think it would be really, really cool to see. Like, I don't know how Sherlock Holmes would interact with like the Grim Reaper, but it would be fun to find out.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they sort of like opened up the scope to do something like that, both with Arthurian legend having like Morgana Le Fay, Merlin, but also in Gothic actually having several named characters. It feels like they're softening up some of that, which would mean that they could have something like a Shakespearean set or something like that without it feeling too disjointed.
Let me turn that around on you. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah. Well, they have been, nodding towards Magic with many of the sets, and the inspiration from Magic is very obvious. And we're actually looking, some of the early Magic sets, what could fit the flavor. And right now with Gothic, we have these dark, sinister forces creeping in on the realm of man, causing havoc and destruction and death. And that could lead on to a set afterwards where the world is sort of in disarray, and also having the opportunity to explore different places that we have, sort of touched upon. It could be the Highland. It could be maybe in an expansion of some of the fantasy settings, such as goblins. We have seen no elves. I would like elves. And one of the early Magic sets that you also mentioned, Zac, was the Fallen Empires. And the Fallen Empires is also set in a sort of setting where the empires are crumbling.
Take us to Sarpedia.
Yeah. So sort of Fallen Empire setting that also gives the opportunity to expand upon some of the places, some of the lore, maybe some of the characters that we've seen so far. And with Gothic, we saw a lot of named characters, so we might see more legendary characters in a bottom up set. So that would be my best guess. A sort of decaying world, crumbling empires sort of set. What about you, Sophie?
I think like there's so many places that we could go, and I love that about Alpha because the set started out so broad. So no matter where we sort of decided to journey to, it would also feel like that it fits really well with the overall sort of game. But I think like hitching on to your idea about magic, I think I could see like an Ice Age type set where it's like Northern mythology, a frozen world. We have thin ice in Gothic. We have thing in the ice in Gothic as well. I think there could be something about like having a really desolate world that is frozen, and then mixing up with like maybe some Sami, some Norse mythology, and doing like a really cool and flavorful set around that.
Jens, you'll get your elves that way.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the name of the site? Remind me the name of the site where it says you're at death's door until next turn, but you reanimate a minion.
A temple of something.
That's the one you guys spoiled.
Orpheus'
Crossing.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
So that was a nod that they like could start leaning into like Greek mythology as a.
Definitely. That would be my second guess.
Yeah,
because
that'd be really
there's
cool.
Ferryman's Coin, there's so many, and even in both Arthurian Legends and also Alpha, there are so many sort of like slight little nods to Greco-Roman mythology. I think it would fit beautifully, and I also think that's part of the genius of Alpha, sort of laying out so many little pieces of the puzzle that no matter where you go, it will still feel cohesive when they add something new to the realm. I think that's really smart game design as well. So either Ice World or we journey into like Greco-Roman mythology and really have a deep dive into, the Olympian gods, the underworld of Hades, lots of cool stuff to explore.
I think that this is sparked to that, like something that sort of intrigues me as places to go are characters or figures that even if they did exist at one point, if we never existed with them, then we don't actually know who they are. So Zac and I were just in Italy for Eternal Weekend, and going and seeing all the statues and artworks that are like mythologizing even people that existed. Like Galileo existed, but like nobody who's alive existed with Galileo. So like all we know is he's the stars guy. Like I would love to see a Galileo card. Like that would be really cool. Because like even though he was a real person, we don't know what he was like. We have no frame of reference beyond the stories that have been told about them.
Definitely, and we could do like a Fallen Empires, but in Italy, and have like the Medici family and all the different feuding cities of Italy fighting each other. I mean, there's so much fun they could do.
Let me tell you,
we're excited for everything, no matter where they take us.
Let me tell you a great story about being at the Medici Chapel in Italy. I have the meta glasses. They're not on right now, but like you could touch them and be like, "Hey, translate this for me." And there's a bunch of stuff in the Medici Chapel in Latin, and I took Latin, but I can't just read it off the top of my head. So I'm like, "Hey, for this tombstone, please translate this." And it goes, "Here lies Lorenzo di Medici, who died of treachery."
What's the bad guy?
I was like, "Whoa, treachery!"
So reading that somebody died of treachery has now become an in-joke whenever we play, where if like one character kills another character in the realm, we're like, he died for treachery.
Perfect. That sounds amazing. Yeah. I think those are some pretty good options. And I think no matter where they take us, we're excited about it. Precisely as you said, Phil, like it's rather than fearing, oh my God, what are they going to do to this poor game next? It's like, oh my God, what are they doing? It's going to be so exciting. How have you sort of like tried to build that excitement in local community? Are you like trying to teach new players? What are you doing like locally to get people to play?
So a big part of the local thing for me is getting shops, especially because, so I'm in Philadelphia. There aren't a ton of shops here. Right across the river, there's Top Deck. Top Deck runs events. They're great. But it's like I got to get on a train and then get on another train. And then then I have to have a buddy pick me up. It's a whole thing, right? So I want places that I can get to without that whole hullabaloo. So there's a place locally called Dark Depths Games that they were the first place in the area to get product. So that's how I got in. When beta came out, they put aside some beta for me because they knew I was a Magic player that wanted beta. I'd been egging them on about it for months, and so now when we did the Crossroads, the Crossroads,
yeah,
and they sold us a bunch of like every day you could buy a Dragon Lord box. So Phil and I got a Dragon Lord box every day, and I put one aside for that local. And I was like, hey guys, like I'll get one of these for you. Like, let's run events, like let's pay me the $60 or whatever for it. Like I'm not going to mark it up. Let's run an event. So we've got an event coming up relatively soon. It's going to be like, I think it'll probably be a sealed deck. But I'll also bring a bunch of stuff there to like kind of teach people how to play. And I think sealed deck is one of the better ways to teach people how to play if they're not bought in and invested. Because if you know a little bit about Magic, you can just kind of look at these and be like, oh, okay, I think I'm doing this right. And, if you got 3 or 4 people there that like definitely know the rules, know how to play the game, and there are going to be people that show up. Like we went for the Gothic release, a buddy picked me up and we drove 40 minutes into South Jersey, like into the middle of nowhere, South Jersey. And the place was packed. They had now I forget his name off the top of my head. They had one of the sorcery artists was there random. I was like, whoa, that's cool. And we just sat down, and my buddy he'd never played. He had read the rules, did the judge test, was a judge, but had not been able to actually play the game yet. So this was his first time playing the game. He came in like 4th. I ended up winning the tournament, which was cool.
Nice.
But it was crazy. It wasn't Enchantress. This was Spellslinger, actually.
Oh, damn.
Because it was sealed deck.
Oh, it was sealed. It was sealed, yeah.
And it was crazy how many people were there that were just like super hot. People were just opening boxes. They were like, I'll buy another one. And I was like, this is crazy. The people are just like, and they had enough product to support the game. And that was like, that showed me that one, people will come out of the woodwork if you just say, hey, we're going to do this week. And then on top of that, everybody there was super welcoming, super friendly. So it just proves that this is a community that's like looking to grow, whereas like, again, I'm not trying to crap talk Magic. But if you go to a sealed deck for a pre-release for Magic, you're not going to find people to be as welcoming as you're going to find for Sorcery, because the game is not new, right? Now, I'm not saying that Magic players are going to be like, this idiot doesn't know how to play the game. But at the same time, for Sorcery, we know we have an uphill battle. Every player knows that, like, you have to be cool. You have to be someone people want to play with, because otherwise they're going to find a different game, So for me, that's the thing that I'm trying to do the best is be someone that people don't mind winning against or losing against, and then hitting up the local and just constantly being like, hey, what can I do to get you guys to run events? What can I do? Like, I'm happy to judge. I'll sit out a tournament just to get people in the door so that we can do this. I'd love to go. Like, I have a ton of comments and stuff and be like, hey, I'm going to put together a bunch of like common decks that people can just take home with them afterwards. Like, just so they can get a feel for the game while they're here, So for me, that's the big thing is trying to build a community where none exists right now. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, but what you say is, actually just community building at its finest. This is what really gets, people into the game, and also giving them a good experience and a fun time. And then they go home and they're like, I want to do that again.
Yeah, making sure people actually come back, because it was so enjoyable. They had a great time. People were fun and nice to be around. So, of course, I want to come back, hang out, and play this awesome game. But I really do think, like, that's important. The part about being the guy that you don't mind if you lose or you win, but he was just nice and you had a really good time.
Yeah, and also it takes away, the sort of zero-sum game sort of thing that is in many of these competitive games, that if you don't win, then was it even worth coming? And I think with Sorcery it is, because I'm not a great player. I lose all the time. Sometimes I win a few, but I'm not going to be top seeded player.
Yeah.
But I still come because I have a lot of great fun. And then when I'm kicked out of the tournaments, usually I just sit down and play some multiplayer games and have the time of my life. And I think that's, really special about Sorcery, that you stick around and you play some casual games. You don't just go home because you're eliminated from the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a lucky spot right now where I'm doing well at the game, but I am by no stretch of the imagination a great player of card games. I just love playing them.
I'm in New York, and so like the New York scene, there is a lot of great LGS support throughout New York. There's several different stores that like handle a bunch of different games. But like very recently, Sorcery has gotten like a weekly local scene.
Hey, that's
And
great.
What I found about New York in particular, what you were saying about like it being worth going or worth returning to, like that more broadly speaking, I think is where, as Eric's Curiosa starts to build up and support their competitive circuit, that I find has been like a very good way to get players involved in the game, because the locals, I find, even though there is a casual vibe to it, it's a lot of fun. The way that players are engaging is like super friendly, super welcoming. It's awesome. But like, if you were to just like take everybody's minds and like zoom out a little bit, everybody also knows that they're going, oh, but this is my testing ground. This is where I can like sharpen my blade and hone my skills for like when the larger event, whenever they come, and I can go and like test myself in that. And so the
Crucible,
there's this aspirational aspect to like the competitive circuit. Even if you don't have any like competitive aspirations, there's just something to like aspire to at like a higher level that makes it so that you're going, oh, if I show up, I can show up having thought about this event with an idea, and I'm going to come and test my idea on the testing ground. And then whether or not that idea works, it still feels like a successful endeavor, because it's not just a one-off thing. It's part of this broader system that you're now part of, that you're endeavoring into with everybody else endeavoring with you in it. And then you go, okay, so we're all taking care of each other, but we're all also trying to like climb the summit. And you want to climb the summit first, even though you know that like you have your fellow players with you. You're like, it's this like fun. That's what draws me a lot. Like I like going and like testing an idea and then seeing, can this idea hold up against good players, strong players that are trying to not let me do it? And like really like press against that pressure. I really like that sense, and I think that that's what a lot of the New York scene is, and that's the case for a lot of games too in New York. I'm not sure if that's just like, it's a more hustle and bustle type area, and so that's just like the mentality that people have. But I find that like going to the local, it's very a casual vibe, but at the same time, it is a very community focused vibe of like we can all help each other get better. And so then like when New York and like that scene goes into a bigger event, it's like we know that we have like sharpened our blades together, even though we're individuals in this tournament,
That makes sense. And also just like, then you have like the New York team coming out and hopefully cheering for each other as well as you battle against like other regions when you meet up in some of the bigger events. But that also sort of like makes your local community even more closely knit, even if you're like participating in a bigger event. I was at Siege at the Core, which was in Belgium. We're in Denmark. And there were people from like all over Europe. And it was really cool because people really like identify like we're Team Austria.
Yeah.
And even though they battle against each other, they were also just like rooting for each other. And it gave that like friendly, competitive mix, which is really nice in the game.
Yeah, it's like having a crew, like
exactly. And they even said like we're the Austrian crew. So yeah.
That was the cool thing about, so when we did the at Top Deck, they had the Cornerstone, and all these cats from New York came down, and I met most of them for the first time. I used to live in New York as well, so some of those guys knew me through the Magic scene, and we went and we played, and and then I take the tournament down. All those guys are like, "Yo, amazing! I can't believe, well done!" like. And then we go to Boston, and in Baltimore, and in Baltimore, all those same people were like, "Hell yeah! Like, good job! Like, let's, like." But they were all like, everyone, like, as soon as you talk about city, and then you go regionally, and then like, it's very cool to be like, to have like not just a group of like local players, but a group of regional players, and then like when you're kind of known within the game, you get that too, which is really cool. I was talking to Josh, Josh Clark, Lord of Pizza, at Baltimore, and I was like, this is neat. Like it's like me, Josh, Chase, and Mike were sitting there talking to each other. I was like, this is fun. This is like a little cool guys club, you know, like this is great. You know, we're all just sitting here hanging out, talking about sorcery, and people are coming up and they're like, oh, Josh, I love your content. You know, they're talking to Mike about art and stuff, and they'd see Chase, and, you know, it's like, this is like super fun, because like it's neat to be like a known person and not to be like, I'm a celebrity, you know, like, so to have like a crew as well is to me is like really, really fun.
That I think again speaks to the culture that Eric Curiosa has like endeavored to create with their game, and that like has come through. That's like also very much why, like, after Zac taught me the game, and then, you know, we went to an event, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is exactly the experience that like you hope from a trading card game. Something that like captures your imagination, stimulates you like on an intellectual battleground way, but then also like when you step out of the game, it's just fun to be around. You know, the culture is just fun to be around. And like to know, like it really, this conversation is like further highlighted for me how important like the people that you are working on the game, that you trust them. I implicitly trust Eric Curiosa to make the game only better going forward. And that like is such a relief, because I don't go, oh, how long do I get to have this experience for? Like there's only so much time until this is no more and this is ruined, or I can't have this, or I can't enjoy this again. Where it's like, nope, this is, I get to relax and enjoy the moment with all these people who also enjoy this thing too. And we don't have to worry that it's like a short term or
and anticipate a new, more fun moment coming up. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like I get to look forward to this instead of thinking I need to cherish this right now. It's like I do, but I also know that like I don't have to remove myself into my third eye to watch this experience to remember it. I can just enjoy being here for what it is and where it's going to go.
Oh, that's you know, so true. I got all anxious just listening to you saying that, because like, oh, it hasn't crossed my mind that of course that, you know, the magic could go away with sorcery, but it isn't going to, because we really trust Eric Curiosa and we trust the game. And I think that might be the most important thing that we have lost with Magic, that there's no longer this faith in the game.
I think like in a really precise way that like I've found with that is, once Magic had adopted Commander as its flagship, Wizard of the Coast didn't design Commander. And then when they adopted it as their flagship, they didn't make any changes to it. So they didn't test it. They didn't design it. They didn't build it. It's not theirs. And so when they're trying to design for it, they're designing for something that isn't theirs. They did not make it. Whereas like once that became the thing, it's like, okay, we're going to just absorb this thing and then lead it. But you're not leading something you made. You don't believe in that the same way as at least it doesn't feel that way. It's like you're trying to appeal to the players that you're trying to lure in because they're the biggest pool. But that's not the thing that you cared about. And so like it has this undertone of like trying to please the players, as opposed to being like, no, we're going to tell what we want, and then the players will discover it. And so with Eric Curiosa coming in and doing their thing, it's like we are making the things we want to make, and then the players will discover it, and hopefully everything that we want translates to them. But we're not spoon feeding it. We're going to respect these people. And that for me is what has been such a profound difference for sorcery, and why it has captured my imagination so deeply, because that implicit trust between me and the game designers is so strong and so palpable that then I get to go, the ideas that I want to make happen will work, because I trust that they have figured out how to let me do that. And that feels powerful.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also find it very interesting that instead of sort of like latching on to multiplayer as a format that they want to adopt right now, they're like, we'll adjust our cards so it says each opponent or whatever, so it can work for it, but we're not going to start regulating and deciding how you guys play it. We're just gonna, and I think both Simon and Eric has like said this like verbatim multiple times. We trust in the product. The product is good, and that's why it's going to work. And I mean, that is actually what is palpable when you open the product, when you play it, and also just throughout the community, that people are really embracing it as their own and then playing it the way they want to play it and telling their story in the realm. And I think that works because that is the message all the way from the sorcery team to the players.
Yeah, and I think it also goes with the meta. When Archimego came out, there was this outcry, you know, ban Archimego, ban Ring of Morrigan. and it hasn't happened, and the team was just like, well, let's
Ride
figure
it
the
out.
meta out. Let's see what happens, and rightly so, because the meta did change, and then Druid had its
Heyday.
moment of glory, and of course Druid has been sort of nerfed with the rule changes to Tani, but still I think that in most sense they are letting the meta figure itself out, and they're not touching the cards. They're not trying to regulate how we play sorcery.
I think that they did a very smart thing in deciding to just jump the gun on Druid and being like, well, we're about to put out a new set. That set is not going to be as well received if Druid is the thing that everyone should just be doing. We're going to nerf Druid, and now it's going to give you a chance. Like, I've got 5 decks behind me, right? All new avatars except for the Enchantress deck, right? So I've got 5 new decks that I can't wait to play, right? That would not be the case if every deck was just like an aggro farm of Druid. So they were like, look, this is a problem. Everyone's doing this one thing. It's definitely the thing that's the best thing to do. Let's just stop that and make people have to innovate. New sets coming out. Innovate with the new avatars.
Yeah, I think that the aspect of every time something new comes out with Eric's Curiosa, because there's that they believe in their product, and like the product is the focal point first. Like, they're like, as long as we have a good product, then the players will endeavor into it. And I trust them to always maintain that priority. Like, I trust them to do that work in a way that they have told me that they're going to do it. I believe them, and therefore, like, I've always heard that, like, the way to be trustworthy is to just be predictable. Like, if you tell somebody what you're going to do and then you do it, and then it's just predictable that you're just going to do what people know you to do, you are trustworthy in that regard. And I trust them to do what they say they will do, because they've only done that so far. And so, like, that makes me then not have to think about any of that stuff. I can focus on what I want to focus on, because I trust that they are going to do their end of the deal in this experience. And so, likewise to Zac, I have so many decks built that I haven't gotten to play yet that I'm so excited to. I'm like, because they gave the nod to Magic and Magician, I'm like, I have to figure this out. It's an unsolvable puzzle, but I'm like, I must. As a longtime Magic player, I must solve this. And it's just such a fun, never-ending puzzle. I love it so much.
You have this great urge to be mana flooded again. I like that.
I have a great urge to. I am positive that this is a bad idea, but you go cook, Phil.
I just want to find my Plague of Frogs easier. That's all.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, then maybe as a finishing statement.
We need to do one more. One more thing.
Okay, but I have this question. I need to have it because I think it bridges both the community aspect, because we're giving a little nugget of gold to whoever listens at this point in the interview, and also I'm just very curious. So 30 new avatars came out with the set of Gothic. So Phil and Zac, which is your favorite new avatar, and what have you tried to build around this avatar?
Phil, you go first.
So there are 2 that have, first off, Magician immediately, just because that spoke to, like, clearly that was a nod to Magic in every way. They're like, hey, Magic players, we know you're here. And because the mechanics of the game are different, it like makes me go, well, I understand Magic. I understand the like foundation and deck building versions of that. And now you're giving me the means to break how you do the scaffolding of your game. Well, now I have to endeavor into that and see if it actually can work, right? Like, it may not. It may be an abysmal failure, but I like the journey to finding that is so exciting to me. So Magician for sure. And then the other one that like I didn't think was going to be as compelling as it's been to think about is Duplicator. Because until then I never thought about two of the same unique interacting with each other, because it wasn't something that we could do unless you were playing like Replicate on an artifact. So it just did not cross my mind. Why would I think about something I can never do? And then
the podcast isn't even monetized yet, and this guy's already trying to build double unique decks.
It's just like like everybody's like, oh, Duplicator is the money deck because you have to spend so much more on uniques. But like, just even if I never actually build the Duplicator deck, just thinking about how these game pieces that I never thought can interact before now get to interact, and I'm like, oh, maybe there is something to be built around that. And like, because we couldn't actually think about 2 uniques interacting with each other. What's the the knight, the Sir, that like it comes into the realm, and then your opponent chooses a site, and then if it goes there, you draw a card.
Galahad.
Yeah,
Galahad. So I was like,
Percival. Is it Percival? Actually, it's Percival.
Percival. It's Percival,
Galad's
right?
Galad's the lifelink one.
It's Percival.
Yeah.
So
Let's see.
I was like, oh, well, I never thought about like, what does the game engine say? If I have 2 Percivals and you pick a site for Percival, does it recognize Percival as a different object if I have a second Percival? Like, can I just cast my second Percival to where you put the first Percival's thing, and it sees Sir Percival has found that site? Therefore, I draw a card, then you pick another place, but there's already another Sir Percival on the other side of the realm, closer to that site, and now I can just do this? Like, that wasn't thinking, like, the idea of doing this wasn't a thing we could do before. And now Duplicator's saying, well, maybe you can do it.
I think lore-wise it should, but I don't know what the actual ruling
But
is.
then I go, right, lore-wise it should, but then it doesn't work. But then I go, wait a minute, but Eric's Curiosa loves making sure that the lore works. And so I'm like, maybe they will rule in this way where it's like, yep, it sees Sir Percival, and there's only one Sir Percival. So like it's him, he entered the place. You draw a card, and then you draw another card, and then I'm drawing all the cards.
Interesting. What about you, Zac? I saw you fishing for deck bucks.
So immediately I was intrigued by Imposter. I was just like, what if I could play all the best avatars? And I've constantly been looking at an avatar and being like, that would work really well with this other. Oh, it's an avatar. I can't actually put 2 avatars in the deck, right? Like
Zac and I have been, we have our chat where we're just throwing ideas back and forth at each other. And like, yeah, Imposter has been the thing where he's just like, what about this?
Yeah. So with Imposter, we have a deck tech on Imposter that we just put out, I think Tuesday. So I just was like, okay, well, like, let's think about this in a way that's like different phases of the game, right? Your early game, your mid game, your late game. The deck kind of needs to have cores because you want to be spending that 3 as fast as you possibly can. So I was like, let's make a deck that is kind of like a mid-range deck that can basically, like, in the early and mid game is just Imposter, whatever, fine. Once you pivot to the mid game, you can switch up to Sorcerer and start drawing extra cards. Then when you get to the late game, you're like, Archimago, I'm doing all the things. I'm just going to throw them at you, right? And so to me, that was really cool. I saw Roaring Turkey put up a deck that was secret Flame Collar. So your opponent doesn't know you're Flame Collar, but what happens is you can do a point in the game, you're like, I'll pay 3 and kill you, right? Like, so that's a really cool one. And then the other one that I really, I've really been putting my mind behind is Animist. So I wanted to build a spell heavy deck, magic heavy deck that leaned into 2 specific cards: Overflow and Landmass. Those 2 ramp spells, the Earth and Water ramp spell. And I was like, so if we can ramp into from 3 to 5, going Common Sense to get to like guarantee that you're going to get one of those 2 cards, right? Then you hit your 3rd land or your 3rd site. You go right to 5 on turn 4, right? And now you're like, okay, I can Poison Nova a turn early, or I can just cast a Poison Nova and Earthquake as a guy, and now I have a 5 on the board, right? So I was like, this is compelling because it allows you to, it basically gives modality to every one of your spells. The question is that modality good enough? Because I didn't think that the card was initially good enough when it was you're playing the spell as a creature and you were getting its effect. I was like, I don't think that's good enough. And then the more we thought about it, they were like, well, I think actually the modality of that means that you can take all the creatures out of your deck that normally would be like non-action spells that would take a turn to do a thing. You can basically be a control deck to clear off the board, and then at the end of the game, when every card in your deck is just a creature, and your opponent's like, I drew a core, like you can be the guy who has absolute consistency every turn. You're playing a threat after that. So I find Animist to be a really cool puzzle to solve. And all of these decks I'm going to get to play tomorrow against my buddy Harry from Moxfield. So like today's the 26th. I think on the 27th I'm going over to his place on Saturday, and we're just jamming Sorcery all day long. We haven't gotten to play any since Gothic's come out, so it's all been Phil and me theory crafting. So I cannot wait. And then obviously I'm super excited to play.
They're going to play all day, and I'm jealous.
Oh yes, I would be jealous too.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll get Phil here soon. My wife bought 2 big dice this was a Christmas present to me. This and the other one's further away. I can't grab it. But for our gameplay content, so you can like clearly see what the life tools are on our gameplay content.
Perfect. That makes sense. So guys, we're closing around an hour now. So let us just do like a final round here for everyone. Let us mention a highlight from 2025 and one specific thing that you are super psyched about for 2026. So Zac, will you go first?
Yeah, I think my highlight, minus getting Phil on board, because you always have to like really convince a friend that plays a new game to get on board with it. If you get a Magic player to change tack and play a new game, that's a big move. It takes a lot of convincing. But I think my highlight of the year was truly winning that Cornerstone event. That gave me the I was like, oh, like not only I'm okay at this game, but like I feel like if you can take a deck like Enchantress that's not like a known tier 1 deck and play it and win with it, because either one, it's know your enemy, know yourself, right? Like I know what all the other decks are doing, and my opponents kind of don't know. Like they haven't played against Enchantress a lot, so they don't know what's going on. If you can take that tack in a game where you're like, I'm an unknown, I'm just gonna walk in and do my thing. To me, that was like super cool. So to me, that was a moment for me that was like awesome, because winning's always great, but like winning with your own deck is like so much more fun.
Oh yes.
And your thing you're looking forward to in 2026?
I'm really looking forward to whatever the small set is this year. I immediately, as soon as I grokked all of Gothic and was like, okay, here are all the cards. This is all the things I think that I want to be doing. I'm like, now I need at least 13 more cards. I need to know about what the next. I need to know about what the next. I want to know who the artist is. I was just like, what is it going to look like? So I'm very excited for whatever the small set is and what that theme is this time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'll be elves.
Who knows?
Fingers crossed.
What about you, Phil?
There was a moment at SCG Baltimore in the last round. We're going into the last round, and we're playing, I think, for top 16, probably, me and my opponent. It's my first ever event, and I'm like, doing very well because Zac handed me, a stock Archimago deck that I made some changes to because I have to, put my own stamp on something. But we're going into the last round. I'm playing against an opponent who's playing Avatar of Air. I have not really any reps against any of the avatars, so I'm like sort of learning in this event as I go. I played against Pathfinder a ton in that event, so I like figured out that matchup. But
this was your 15th game of Sorcery,
right? Yeah, and it's the final round, and I am certainly like taking up more clock than my opponent, trying to like figure out what is possible, right? All the movement with avatars. Like first off, I'm trying to grok the movement of this game, and then also now that there's this avatar that like switches all of that up, and so I'm like thinking about all these lines and blah blah blah, and we're going, and it's like a really back and forth game, and it's really engaging, but it's also like super draining. And at the end, we hit time, and I'm like, okay, well, I think clearly my opponent knew what they were doing. They've been playing for a while. They understood what was going on. I must have taken up more clock as I was trying to figure it out. I was like, I'm going to concede to my opponent. And then like, as I'm about to say, hey, I'm going to concede to you, my opponent goes, I'm going to concede to you, man. Great game. And I was like, no, wait, I was just going to say I was going to concede to you. And he was like, no, I'm going to concede to you. And I was like, well, I think I took up. We're like arguing with each other about trying to concede to each other because the game was really engaging and a lot of fun. And so like we both appreciated each other at the table. And so we're like trying to like put that into like, action. And then by the like somebody else comes around and I'm like talking to somebody else about like the scenario and like the gameplay, and it was really interesting. And then by the time I turn back to my opponent, he's already like submitted that he conceded on the app. So like I can't even argue anymore. And so like, yeah, so like that moment of like, I was like, man, I really like need to be at the same level as you if I'm going to compete at this event, right? Like I feel like you handheld me a little bit here, and that was really kind of you, but like I should pay that forward, not you doing that to me. And they were like, no, man, like this was great. That was a lot of fun. Like I really enjoyed this. Like we'll see you at the next one. And it was that moment that was really like the clear highlight of like, these are my people. This is the community I want to be in. Like I was like, I was self-aware enough to understand my shortcomings, and my opponent was like, nah, man, you're good. I can't wait to play with you again. Let's do it next time. Like that experience was just like, especially going into my own event, being in my head about like the insecurity of like, will I be able to hold my own in this thing? And then just being like, dude, we're in no rush. Nobody's mad at you, man. You're good. welcome.
That's so cool.
And that was such a highlight. That was such a comforting thing that I remember to this moment. Like I will never forget that match for that experience in the dialogue afterwards. And then the thing that I'm looking forward to, selfless self plug here, but like I'm really excited about getting sorcery content on the eternaldurdles.com, the written site that we've done. I'm excited about that because it feels like another way that we can give back to a game that I became really disenchanted by Magic. And if there were like a lot of points where I told Zac, I was like, Zac, if it wasn't for our podcast, I don't know if I would really play all that much anymore. Like, I don't know if this is really for me. And so I like sort of felt that loss and like, you know, went through like this like pseudo grieving process of like, man, the game that I've always wanted, like there's still like a community for like the Eternal players, but like we constantly are battling against WotC, like trying to screw with it. And so I'm like, I don't know how much more that can be. And so then Zac was like, Phil, you really need to try sorcery now. Like, I think this is really what you want. And so like that thing that I was like fearing that I wasn't going to have anymore, Zac like just gave me this, you know, beautiful box of, you know, beta. And it's like, hey man, open this and you'll feel the light. And then I did. And so like in the way that like Zac and sorcery has like made it so that I didn't lose that thing I was so fearful of losing, which is like this community of like strategic minds that all come together for a common cause. Like the way that I feel like I can physicalize that in the real world to like be like, hey everybody, I want to do the same is eternaldurdles.com, where like people can just like share whatever ideas they want and like do the same thing. That way they don't ever think that they have lost that. So like I'm really excited about potentially giving more players the opportunity to share their ideas with the community at large, because that's the thing that I so deeply appreciate.
The way I keep Phil involved in the Magic process is to remind him that stewardship is cyclical, and that even these bad decisions that these people that currently work there make, there will be other people that come in to right the ship in time. It just, I've been playing this game for 32 years or whatever. It'll eventually tack back over.
I hope so. I'm not
so.
certain, but yeah,
it will take time. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, let us just make sure that we plug all of your different places that people can catch you guys, because this is also part of like the creator spotlight, is like giving people a taste of who's out there, who should watch, listen to. So please do plug all your cool places.
Yeah, so there's eternaldurdles.com, which is where you can find all our written content. The Common Sense Sorcery Podcast, you can find that on Spotify. You can find that on YouTube. I'm sure there's a link somewhere. And then also, I think Apple Podcasts has it now too. We're slowly getting all the podcast apps to like put it on there, but that's a thing that like Spotify does. So that's its whole thing. And then if you're a Magic person, there's Eternal Durdles, which also is our Magic legacy and pre-modern content on YouTube as well.
Awesome. And guys, for all of you, if you didn't catch it, everything will be linked down below in the description of this episode of Cardboard Guide Conversations. And there is also a playlist with all our Cardboard Guide Conversations. That is artists, people from the Sorcery team, Jay, Simon, Eric, tons of hours of interviews. So if you're into that sort of thing, go check it out. Do you want to wrap it up?
I can try. that was going in dry. Yeah. But Zac and Phil, thank you. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, and I love your enthusiasm. I love the passion you have for the game of sorcery, and it really translates. Even though you are across the Atlantic, I can't wait to get a game with you guys.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. We're gonna, I think we want to try and get out to a European event next year. Like
I'll happily reveal my magician to you and then flood the entire realm.
Perfect.
Yeah, that gives a whole new meaning to flood the realm, doesn't it?
Exactly. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this conversation, do be sure to smash like button down below. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.